Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the shop. We haven't been in the shop for a while, but I got an issue here, very common issue with the Can-Ams that they just haven't got smart enough to resolve. The sloppy steering in the Outlander and the XMRs and the Renegades and the Renegade XMRs. Very common problem. Very disappointing the Can-Am hasn't figured this crap out yet, but cheers. I got this from BNR Motorsports out of Lima, Ohio. And what this is the BNR aftermarket greasable Pitman arm. It was one of my choices to fix a steering slop in my Can-Am. Only reason I went with BNR is they came in $100 US cheaper than that Jay's Parts, I think it was called. Those come out of the UK, and they were pretty much exactly $100 more American. So okay, so this is just a little bit of an afterthought video. I've already installed the new BNR Pitman arm in there. This is the stock Can-Am Pitman arm. So let's talk about what's the same. The castings look identical from the BNR Pitman arm to the stock Can-Am one. They both use BRP bushings, and the clamping system is the same. The BNR Pitman arm, I think, has a bit more clearance in between the two clamps to get a little bit more clamping force. I could be wrong, I didn't measure it. And everything looks identical, except for the fact that the BNR is greasable. That is pretty much the only difference. You're pretty much putting a Can-Am part back on the quad, but it's greasable. Now, compared to the Jay's part, it has the two clamps. It has a clamp on this side and a clamp on this side, so you have two bolts to help clamp that down, which is fantastic. And it has a different bushing system. It doesn't just have the BRP bushings. They have their own bushings. Is that a good thing? I don't know. If anybody has any experience with Jay's, they can leave a comment below. But so there's just the differences. The BNR is better compared to the Can-Am because it's greasable, and the Jay's is most likely better than the BNR part because it has the two clamps and the different bushings. So those are the differences. Those are the similarities. Now let's get back on with the install. So you get the wheels and off the front and the inner fender wells, and yeah, not a whole lot to it. I can see my beer fridge and my toolbox from here. So once you're in here, it's a good time to start moving and shaking stuff. So I have discovered that my A-arm bushings are shot. 51, almost 5,200 kilometers on this thing. And those A-arms have been carrying around those heavy tires and all that. So I can't complain too much, but you know what? I'm still gonna. You can see that bolt there. That's got to come out. That is what pinches the splines on the Pitman arm to the power steering unit. Get you straight here. So that's got to come out, and I believe that these two bolts and the other two on the other side that hold that power steering unit in, I think they got to come out. The nuts on the back side of these are tack welded on, but they use some pretty good thread lock. So you got to put a wrench on behind here so you don't break those welds. I think that's Pitman arm. I can barely see the screen of the camera. So that is the culprit there. I don't know if I can get it to wiggle around or not here, because all my leverage that I had with the wheels and tires are gone now, because the wheels and tires are off. That whole Pitman arm was actually going up and down. It goes up and down and side to side. Yeah, it's foobarred. Alright, so I'm moving right along here. So these bolts that hold the power steering box on this side are not welded, but they got some freaking Hercules freaking thread lock on her. So I would highly recommend heating them up with a torch. I thought since I get a wrench on the back side I wouldn't have any problems, but I actually broke the bolt. So yeah, there's disappointment. Now the ones on the passenger side, you can, there they are, right there and there. You can get a wrench on them. Those are the ones that are welded, that everybody else online was having troubles with the welds breaking. I didn't have that problem. I had the problem on the other side with a broken bolt. So be warned, the spline bolt loose, so that should be able to slip off. I just got a drift holding power steering box on, and I just unbolted this plate here, and that should come out. Should. If I wasn't here to catch it, it would just come right out. There it is. So there it is. That's what holds the plastic bushings. There's the plastic bushings. Dry as a fiddler's fart. Lots of wear on there. So now I just got to, I'm gonna take my tie rods out with that. So all I'm gonna do is unbolt them on the ends, and then drop that Pitman arm and then feed them through. Okay, I think I'm about ready to get her out here. I think she's gonna come now. Well, there goes my wrench. And, oh, there it is. Okay. Alright, so in the middle of wiggling this thing out of here. And there it is. Alright, let's go over here to the Yamaha. One machine I haven't done a whole lot of work to yet. Let's just check this thing out. I think that one's new. I'm working on this one, I can't spill that. So here's your bushing, and the bushing is pretty much shot. So it's no wonder there is so much play in that thing. Alright, so let's take these two tie rods off and get the new one in. Spline looks okay. It's just these stupid plastic bushings that you can't grease. Just pulling the tie rods off. So I got that tie rod off. So I think I'll just grab the new one and I'll lay it out here the same way. Put a washer on it, and I'll slide that through, and I'll put the other washer on it, and I'll put the nut on it, and I've just been using a 15mm to hold this where it needs to be. I'll just give her a few ugga-dugs here with this thing. That's perfect. Same to this one here. Holder with the 15 mil. There's a couple flat spots on the tie rod there so you can get a wrench on. Pretty easy stuff, pretty basic. R&R. Bring the new one over here. So I got my washer on, perfect. Another washer. Throw this back on. And don't forget to replace your cotter pins too. So I picked up some parts at Life Outdoors last week for another project for the Can-Am. It's going to be another video. And I left there and I got home and I got thinking, why didn't I buy the ODM, the original Mods design tie rods? Because I'm going to take this thing out anyway. So I was a little upset with myself. So if you're kind of fussy like me and you're diving into something like this, just go buy the aftermarket tie rods. Throw these in your trunk so you got one on the trail if you bend one. Okay, so it's time to reassemble this. So get your bushing, and there's a big shoulder on this bushing, and it actually goes to the foot, so it'll point down. So I want to put some grease in this thing before I assemble it. Turn it on. Let's put some nice clean grease in there. We don't want to start this off on the wrong note. So now you got to line your O-rings up. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but it's Christmas Eve. I've been out here in the shop, of course, celebrating by myself. Okay, so I got the new one sitting in there. Okay, I guess we need to back up a little bit here. I lost a little bit of footage on what I did to prepare the Pitman arm to go in the quad. So this is the old one because it's too late because the new one is already installed. So you can see these just pull apart. There's really not much to these. So what I did, what you guys missed me doing on the video, is this end is capped on the new Pitman arm, and it's capped in there. So there's a grease zerk on here, and the grease comes out. There's a hole here that the grease comes out of, and there's a machine slot there too. So what I did was I filled the whole thing full of grease, and I kept pumping the grease until it come out the hole, just to make sure I got all the air out of here and had nothing inside there but grease. And I put grease on the bushings, on the inside of the bushings. I think you've seen me do that. And then really all you got to do, you make sure that your wide collar is pointing down, and you just line up your O-rings. Got that lined up, so then I put a little bit more grease. Like I did grease these up pretty good. And you get that together. Make sure that that one is all lined up as well, which it should be easier to line up. So once you got the O-rings lined up on the second cap, just press them, squeeze them. This one here goes in a lot easier because it's old and wore out. But that was all I did. And they kind of snap together, so when you're wrestling it around with it in the machine, it's not going to fall apart. And I did not put any more grease to this until I got it installed with the cap on, because if you start pumping the grease to it, it's probably just gonna spread the bushing. So that was what you missed. So back to the install. Now you have to remember about alignment. So you got to get that Pitman arm back on the spline and shove it all the way up where it's supposed to be. And then make sure your plastic bushings are sitting up where they're going to be before you put the cap on. So once you're sure that everything is sitting where it needs to be, take a tape measure, put it on the side of the Pitman arm, and measure back to this frame. So I got about 55 millimeters. Make sure, I should mention this, make sure your handlebars are straight as well before you do all these measurements, because you got to make sure that Pitman arm is in the right splines. I get about 55 mils, so I'm pretty sure I have it centered. Alrighty. So I got the cap on in there. I'm pretty sure I have it aligned. So I'm gonna go ahead now, and I gotta put the bolt in that spline up there on the Pitman arm. Where's that Pitman arm? There it is. I gotta put the bolt in there and tighten that up. And I still need to tighten up my still got to tighten up my tie rods, and yeah, and I think I'll just throw the wheels on her and put her on the ground and make sure everything looks tickety-boo. Okay guys, I am all done. Everything is buttoned up. The alignment looks okay. She's going straight ahead with the handlebars pointing straight ahead. And got rid of all that slop. She's tight. She's tight. I like it. It doesn't squeak now when you crank her. And she's nice and stiff. Oh, I don't know if I can get both motions in there. Anyways, I'm happy with that so far. That is the BNR aftermarket greasable Pitman arm install. Test ride the four-wheeler after doing my Pitman arm. And I gotta say, I'm liking this nice tight steering. It's just like it was brand new. And I tell you what, it steers with very little effort. For a little while there, I thought my power steering unit was going because it was so hard to steer. But now it steers nice, like it was brand new. Because that's great. The handlebars are pointing straight as I'm going straight, so I think I did a pretty good job installing this.